Alright, so the video you're about to see is I cut it out of a longer video, and this is just basically a one little clip shot, and it had a pretty good tip message in there, so that's what you're about to see.
Look at your cutters, okay? So these cutters do not cut because they cross. See, when they're together, they'll cross. These cutters, side cuts or other words that you want to use for them, when they come together, you can see a valley right there, okay? But when these come together, it's nice and smooth all the way across. That valley that you have, when you cut your wire ties, it's going to leave a little lip on your wire tie, and that little lip will cut you every time, and you don't even know you cut it. You will look like you've been in a fight with a kitty cat all the way up your arms. But if you get cutters that are flat all the way across, and then you can set there, you can cut that little lip off. Now there's no harsh, I can run that across there as much as I want, and I didn't cut myself up. So
in general, we would call these wire strippers.
Yes.
We would basically just call these wire cutters.
Yep.
And we would call these flush cuts.
Flush
or
cuts.
Side cuts.
Yep.
And I like these. I own a couple of these, and I use these almost for everything anymore.
I do too. You can tell how old these are.
It seems like these say sharper. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just seems like they say sharper.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying. Another tidbit that is a lot of people don't realize, I didn't even think about it until just real now, is a lot of people will take toenail clippers and cut that, because the toenail clippers actually work just like these will, and nice and flush. We don't really care what you use to strip your wires with. I'm just going to tell you how I do it and what to watch for. A lot of people really love these predetermined size wire strippers. They're nice, they're really nice. Pair of side cuts, pair of flush, and then your typical wire strippers. These are adjustable. You move the screw up to whatever wire gauge you hit. The problem that I have with these, that a lot of people want to argue with on these, is if you look at this wire, can you tell me what size wire that is? So, you're looking at that might be an 18 gauge wire, and then they put it in there and then it doesn't work. So over the years, I've just kind of moved off to my own little system. I know this is controversial, so I don't cut it all the way through. I just kind of pinch the wire, turn the wire at 90 degrees, go in the same spot, pinch the wire. So I've pinched it all the way around the wire, then you grab it away from the pinch and you pull. Okay, you always want to make sure that you're looking in here, because you're looking for strands of wire like that. You really don't want to break these off. So you look in here, make sure that you're nice and clean and you don't have. Now the deal is, if this is an 18 gauge wire and you cut off 3 strands, now instead of an 18 gauge wire you have a 17.8 gauge wire. Now the question that you have to ask is, how important is that to you? So what I mean is that if you have an 18 gauge wire, you're wanting to run 25 amps through that wire. Yes, you're getting towards the end of the capabilities of the wire, so every strand is important. What you do is, when you go in there and you twist them together, you go at a stronger angle. So instead of going at a real loose angle, I want to go almost 90 degrees. See how I'm making my cross right there? And then I twist this wire this way, and I twist this wire the opposite way. Now when I pull, I pulled a little too hard, but when I pull you can see that they're not coming apart. So that way when I do have my soldering iron, I can pick it up, and hold it there, because if I can hold it with my soldering iron, I can solder it. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing or what type of soldering iron I'm using, it's holding together. and then I can almost move it around with the soldering iron. This is a good example of too much solder. So if you look at this, how nice and smooth that looks, that means that you're actually a little heavy on some of your solder and you don't need to use so much. One of the things that you can do with this is you take your iron and heat it back up again and kind of flip it. And then once you flip it, you can see you've knocked off the excess solder in there. If you have one side real small, one side real long, and then I split it. See, I'm about half and half. Okay. With that, what I'll do is I'll cut this off. Okay. I don't twist these together. What I want is I want this to spread out and I want this to spread out. And when I put those two wires together, I want them to mesh together like this. Okay. So I mesh them together like this. I do twist them, and I twist them opposite directions. Then this long piece right here, I'll use that as a wrap to wrap that all the way around to hold that. So the reason that you do this, especially on large gauge wire, and I'm talking something, you know, 10 gauge or better, you know, or heavier, is when you put two 10 gauge wires together, or even two 4 gauge wires together, the distance across from here to here is so big that your heat shrink, when it goes over the top of it, what happens is your heat shrink won't shrink down to make a solid connection here on the side wire on your larger wire. So by doing this, you can get them two wires together. Your knot, or here in the middle, is not so big across, and then when you put your heat shrink on there, you can actually shrink it down small enough for the heat shrink to make a seal here on the edge of the wire. What we want to talk about is soldering a pigtail onto a wire. It doesn't matter what you're soldering. Right here is an extension cord, and let's say you want to make a repair on an extension cord and solder these two back together. As far as what I do most of the time is with the Christmas lights, is I gotta solder this as a pigtail from Wired Watts. So we solder those together, and that's real common. But what I really want people to start getting into the habit of doing is getting into staggering your solder joints, okay? And I want to go over why are you doing this? I want to go over why. So when I stagger my solder joints, I cut them in 3 different lengths. Okay, 3 different lengths and 3 different lengths. Okay, then I will twist those together.
Just more of a cleaner end result.
Cleaner end result, but there are purposes for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That solder loosens up in the middle, it don't connect to each other.
Yeah, especially when
a little less anyway.
Yeah, especially when we come back to some of these samples where we're getting poke throughs. Because if you take all 3 of these and solder them all side by side like this, okay, now you have the middle one poking through and you have this end one poking through, you can really get a short right there. Okay, when you look at the difference between the thickness of your wire strippings, you know, so the casing on your wire, the thickness of the insulation versus the thickness of your heat shrink, you can see that there's quite a bit of difference, and you can understand that the heat shrink doesn't hold up as well as what that the wire strippings would. So when you put 3 solder joints together like this, you can really understand that it wouldn't take much to get those all 3 to poke through and short out to each other. But if you do it like this, let me finish twisting these together so you can see it a little bit better. If you do it like this, did I get it right? So now what I have, go back to my fancy pointers, is this wire here will stop. This wire here starts, and then my third wire will start after. When this one stops, the third wire will pick up and go on. That way when I put all three of these together, even if something for whatever reason is poking through there, it is going to have to poke through my wire stripping, which is a heavier insulation than what it would be to poke through two pieces of my heat shrink that would be side by side. So you can see what I'm saying with that. And it's common for me to put a big heat shrink across the whole thing, you know, after I'm done. So I have my three soldered, they're all staggered together, you know, and then a big heat shrink over the top of that.
And if they're all bundled up together, you'll never get that heat shrink.
Correct.
Unless you have some like 5-to-1 heat shrink or something.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes. So by doing that, you can understand why we are doing what we're doing and why we're staggering away each of them together. And yes, it is possible to solder all those without melting your heat shrink and getting a good connection. And what we want to talk about is these things are new to, or newer to me, to the market. I don't know, 5-10 years. I'm calling that newer. There is a difference in them. So if you grab them, this will run, let's say 18 to 22 gauge, and this is, you know, say 10 to 18 gauge. If you look at, I'm sorry, it says right there, 16 to 14 gauge, and this one runs right here on the side, 22 to 18. But what we want to make sure that you understand is, if you look at the size of this hole and then turn it over 100 and then look at the size of that hole, there is a difference between the two. Okay, and that's what I want to talk to you about. I want you to, yeah, that one's a little bit smaller, that one's going to be a little bit bigger. The reason being is that these are somewhat directional, and the reason why one side is a little bit bigger than the other side is that way because when you join your two wires together, that's going to grow in size a little bit, and that little difference will get you over the top of that. So you can slide this on to onto your piece. I think I'm going to use this one. I'm going to slide this onto my wire, and you can see that gives me just enough room to slide over the top. Okay, it's an 18 gauge wire, so that one should fit on there. Look and see which one's bigger. See, I told you to slide on there. I always twist them a little bit as I go on there. Okay, I try to make sure that my wire stripping, when I strip two wires together, that they fall in between the two reds, and then I can use a torch to heat those down. Now what you really gotta watch with these torches, if you look where my torch is versus where the wire is at, because I don't want to get too close together, because you can get it too hot and melt that. See how I got a little bubble right there? I got a little too hot. But you need to get it hot so that solder will melt down, because we do want to make sure that when this solder melts, it looks like the other pieces that we had a little while ago that I threw away. You're still looking for the strands of wire to come through when this solder in the middle melts. That way you know that you have good solder. A lot of people use heat guns. This one just was not plugged in at the minute. Here's another example of a heat gun. So you want to do that. But when a normal lighter will melt those down, and even your heat shrink too. Twist that around, twist that again. See my cross, 90 degrees, and I'm twisting that around nice and tight, watching the ends where they stop. Take my solder and take my heat shrink, go over the top, all the way down. I kind of twist my heat shrink on there. I don't know why I twist them, but I just do. So let's say I want to use this normal lighter, you know, so a lot of times I don't get all the way up into the flame. I'm away from the flame just a little bit, and I'm soldering that down and it's shrinking down, and you will actually see the wire nice and neat in there.
If you like stuff like this, let me know in the comments below. I can do more stuff like this. I can do more wiring. I can do more of another subject. Maybe even bring in some other guest speakers and do other things like maybe plumbing or framing or whatever the case may be. If you like stuff like this, maybe leave me a line and let me know. Till next time, I'll see you later.